There are 40 people on death row in the state of Tennessee. This is part 1 of the series. John Bain, 34 years on death row. Bain was found guilty and given the death penalty for the 1988 murder of 60-year-old Royce Frazier. An electrical cord was wrapped around Frazier's neck, a plastic bag had been thrown over his head, and he had been gagged. It appeared that a plunger had been placed over his face to keep his head under water. Frazier's home had been broken into. Ashtrays and many lamps had been tipped over. Byron Black, 35 years on death row. 3 counts of first-degree murder were brought against Black in 1989 in connection with the shooting deaths of his girlfriend, Angela Clay, and her 2 daughters, Latoya and Lakeisha Clay. Black was given 2 life sentences for the murders of Angela and Latoya and the death penalty for the murder of Lakeisha. The bodies of Angela and her 9-year-old daughter Latoya were found in the master bedroom. Angela was laying in bed when she was shot once in the top of the head while she slept. She passed away a short while later. Latoya's body was discovered tucked in between a dresser and a bed. She had received a single gunshot wound to the chest and neck. Given the bullet route and type of hit, it seemed likely that she died 3 to 10 minutes after the shooting rather than instantly. 6-year-old Lakeisha's body was discovered face down on the floor beside her bed in the second bedroom. She had been shot twice, once in the pelvic region and once in the chest. After being shot, she passed away in 5 to 30 minutes. Black's fingerprints were found at the scene. Andre Bland, 30 years on death row. Bland was found guilty of shooting and killing untrained Sanders in the parking lots of an apartment complex in Memphis. Sanders was taken to the hospital by the first ambulance to arrive on the site. His condition was extremely serious when the paramedics arrived, despite the fact that they reached the location 9 minutes after getting the call. While traveling to the hospital, he passed away. On October 12, 1992, in the afternoon, about 2 days after the murder, Bland turned himself in to the Memphis Police Department at the request of his mother and grandmother. Kevin Burns, 28 years on death row. Damon Dawson, Tracy Johnson, Eric Thomas, and Tommy Blackman were 4 young men seated in a car in Dawson's Memphis driveway on April 20, 1992. Thomas was in the back seat behind Dawson, Blackman was in the back seat behind Johnson. Dawson was in the driver's seat and Johnson was in the front passenger seat. Carlito Adams and Kevin Burns, 2 people who knew Blackman, approached the car's passenger side. Adams drew a pistol and motioned for Blackman to exit the vehicle. Burns drew a pistol and walked around the driver's side of the vehicle when Blackman refused. Blackman eventually exited the vehicle and ran away. "Get him," Adams said, and a few more guys emerged from behind bushes to open fire on Blackman. At Dawson's house, 14-year-old Eric Jones and 3 of his pals were playing basketball. Jones observed the males in the car taking cash out of their wallets and taking off jewelry. Jones saw Blackman rushing at him a few seconds later. Jones and Blackman fled to the back of the house under gunfire, while Jones's 3 pals fled to a nearby yard. Jones heard 7 or 8 additional gunshots after entering the residence. The Dawsons resided across the street from Eric Jones's mother, Mary Jones. She witnessed Adams fire 1 shot at Johnson's chest. She watched as Kevin Burns repeatedly shot Dawson, moved to the front of the vehicle, and then shot Dawson once more. Mrs. Jones categorically identified Burns and said that as he ran towards her following the shootings, she had a real good look at his face. Tracy Johnson died at the scene. When police came, Damon Dawson, who had 5 gunshot wounds to his arm, buttocks, chest, and hip, was still alive. However, after being taken to the hospital, he passed away. 2 days after the event, Eric Thomas, who had been shot in the stomach and chest, made the photo identification of Kevin Burns. Thomas stated in his testimony that after robbing him and his pals of their money and jewels, Burns and the others had opened fire. Burns was located and taken into custody in Chicago on June 23, 1992. Tony Carothers, 28 years on death row. In 1994, drug dealer Marcellus Anderson, 21 years old, his mother, and one of Anderson's adolescent accomplices were abducted. Tony Von Carothers and accomplice James Montgomery were found guilty in this crime. After the 2 male victims were shot, they were all buried alive along with Anderson's mother in Memphis Rose Hill Cemetery, in a grave that had been dug for a burial. Preston Carter, 29 years on death row. In 1995, Carter received a death sentence for shooting Tensia and Thomas Jackson Jr. to death after breaking into their house. Beside her father's body, the couple's unharmed 3-year-old daughter was discovered covered in blood. Tyrone Chalmers, 26 years on death row. The body of the 28-year-old African-American victim, Randy Allen, was found face down on the pavement in Memphis, near to Netherwood Street, on August 20, 1994. He had been shot 5 times, and his underpants and pants had been yanked down around his ankles. There were 2 fatal wounds, one to the head and one to the back. Chalmers was found guilty of the murder. He robbed Allen of $3. Cedric Clayton, 9 years on death row. The state of Tennessee sentenced Clayton to death for 3 counts of murder. Following a fight with his fiancée, he shot 3 people: his girlfriend, Pasha Fisher, her 56-year-old father, Antheo Fisher, and his 46-year-old wife, Patricia Fisher. Clayton and Pasha had a 4-year-old daughter together. Lamarcus Davidson, 14 years on death row. He killed and tortured a young couple in Knox County, earning him a death sentence in October 2009. In 2007, Davidson and other armed men carjacked Shannon Christian and Christopher Newsom while they were out on a date. They were both essayed and tortured. Jesse Dotson, 13 years on death row. In less than 2 hours, the jury found Dotson guilty of shooting his brother, his brother's girlfriend, and 2 other adults, as well as fatally stabbing his 2 nephews, ages 2 and 4. Dotson was sentenced to die by lethal injection. Despite being stabbed, 3 more kids made it out of the horrific slaughter alive. Following a night of drinking, on March 2, 2008, early in the morning, Jesse Dotson shot and killed his brother, Cecil Dotson, in the head following an argument. Then, armed with 2 firearms, many knives and boards, he pursued everyone else inside the house. Marissa Williams, the fiancée of Cecil Dotson, Samario Dotson, age 4, Cecil Dotson II, age 2, and friends Hollis Seals and Shinri Robertson were also killed. John Hall, 27 years on death row. For killing his estranged wife Billie Jo Hall in Jackson in February 1997, Hall received a death sentence. Chief Jerry Bingham of the Henderson County Sheriff's Department was the first to arrive on the scene. The victim's body was floating face down in the water when he arrived. He contacted the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation and Emergency Medical Services right away. It was not long after midnight that Agent Brian Bird reached the site. When he got into the house, the master bedroom wasn't clean. The bed, a countertop, and the wedding dress were all covered in bloodstains. According to the testimony of the forensic doctor who conducted the autopsy, suffocation from a combination of manual strangulation and drowning was the main cause of death. William Hall, 32 years on death row. The 1988 home murders of an elderly Stewart County couple resulted in the conviction of William Hall and Derek Quintero. Quintero and Hall had broken free from a Kentucky prison when they carried out the killings. Next to his bed on the floor stood Mr. Vester's lifeless body. Blood stained the bed and the pillow as the sheets were pulled back. On the floor of Myrtle Vester's bedroom, close to the restroom, was discovered her lifeless body in a dried blood puddle. She'd suffered 3 gunshot wounds. In addition, she had suffered 13 stab wounds. According to the medical examiner's testimony, the Vesters passed away 2 hours after eating dinner. Please hit that subscribe button if you like my channel. See you next time. Bye bye.